Are you arrogant and entitled?
It's disappointing, isn't it? Disappointing. We're here, we're talking about arrogant and entitled, and we've got a superstar of the game about to retire. Unbelievable.
What do you think about being labelled those things?
Look, I've been lucky enough to work on both sides of the fence, and I can tell you that this club prioritises others.
When you were on the other side of the fence, how did you feel about Adelaide?
It's a good question, Rick. Good
How
question.
did you feel about them?
I enjoyed the rivalry. I enjoyed the contest. I enjoyed showdowns. I enjoyed some of the superstars of the game. I'd say at that stage, Adelaide were playing some really, really top-level footy, so it was quite a challenge.
But how did you feel about the Adelaide Football Club when you were actually inside Port Adelaide?
I think I was answering it.
But you didn't tell us how you feel about them when you were there.
I didn't. It was football. It's a contest. Across the white line, we go to war. It's an interesting one because we're talking about something right now that I'm amazed. We played West Coast 2 weeks ago. Josh Kennedy's final game, superstar of the club, could not have done it better in the lead-in as a football club. Atmosphere is amazing. We're not doing that here, are we?
Where were you when you actually heard those comments last night? What was your immediate reaction?
I was at home, as if probably most were. It wasn't a reaction.
You don't think there's been barbs on both sides of the agenda for years in derbies? You did one yourself in a press conference with the remarks of where Port Adelaide come from and how they attacked from behind.
That was a good one too, wasn't it?
So you're not short of doing it yourself. So
No, I think that's what I've spoken about. I think the rivalry's fantastic. I think there's a line you draw. Port Power this time may have overstepped it.
So you're doing it again yourself now because you know that that's not their name and that agitates them. Is that why you do it? Is that why you do it? Let's talk about footy, guys. Come on, let's talk about footy.
Can I just ask, how do you plan to use those comments? How do your players plan to use those comments?
We haven't actually put it to our players as yet. Okay, so what we've done is we've sat down, we've planned for a game of footy, as we have done now for the entire season. So we look forward to an unbelievable challenge. You know, we're playing a side that are hungry. They're hungry, and we can feel it. When you come into a showdown, all bets are off, and we know that. Our guys have really been looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. It's a great way to finish the season. It would be nice to have a little bit more on it. I think both sides would say that. You know, we'd love to be fighting for finals, but we're not. But this game will be played like a finals game.
What has your players' reaction to the comments been?
Sorry.
What has your players' reaction to the comments been?
As I said, we haven't spoken about it as a group. We trained this morning. We had a captain's run. We went through just some of our last-minute details. Talked about what we'll need from the game, probably what they'll be looking for. And that's going to be our challenge going forward, is how do we get the game on our terms and not allow them to play their game? Because if you allow them to play their game, they're a very good side.
Do you incorporate it into, I guess, your team talk or into the build-up in some way?
Look, if we talk about throughout the week and you talk about what we've discussed, we've got a huge amount of respect for Robbie and what he's done for the game of footy. All right, I'll start again. Huge amount of respect. So we talked about Robbie at the start, the same way we did Josh, Ben last week. So we discussed the reality of what it is. We talk about the stage that it's going to be, packed house, passion. You know, we don't want to come in and be blindsided. So we've gone through all of that. We've gone through game plan. There's not much more to it now. The boys take over as of today and tomorrow, and I'm there to help when I can.
Speaking of game plan, Matthew, your captain pointed out the difference of contested and uncontested footy in the two teams. You think that's the biggest edge here, that your DNA is contested footy and perhaps Port doesn't have the same appetite for it?
No, I think you'll find if you look at the stat, you've still got to win it. When Port win that stat, which they do that enough. And they've got some weapons in other areas that make up. They don't need to win that by 30. We pride ourselves in that space. So he's probably more alluding to the fact that we will need to be on in that area, not so much about our opposition. we enjoy the contest. They're an extremely skillful side if given time and space. We saw that last week. They can do a lot of damage. So we'll be doing whatever we can to not allow that game. And at the same time, we'll do what we can to really put it into a contest.
Does Ollie Wines and Tom Jonas now have a bit of a target on their backs from your place?
From me as a coach? No, I love the boys. I still have a soft spot for Tommy and Ollie. Again, it's not something we've discussed as a group whatsoever. I can't speak for my players though.
Nixie, would you like to have sat next to Ken during this press conference?
I thought we were sitting together, but that's okay. Builds the tension a bit, doesn't it?
What do you think? What do you think you would say, or how would you react if you did sort of bump into Ollie or Tom pre-game? Do you think you would mention the comments? Do you think?
No, it'd be a normal, how you going, bud? Good luck conversation. You'd be surprised at how the boys get along. It's, I think there's a mutual respect for every side. Nowadays, there's a white line that you cross, and I think the intensity picks up when you cross that white line, but I think there's also that respect that's shown off the field.
But you feel like a line's been crossed by Port Adelaide with the comments?
We're just going to keep going back there, aren't we? You don't want to talk footy. It is interesting, yeah. It's the wrong thing to be talking about, but anyway.
Just on Gray, your thoughts from him, from your time at Port Adelaide and obviously your time in the opposition box as well?
Yeah, it looks similar to a lot of the tributes that have been paid to him over the last couple of days. And sometimes it can be taken as a lip. He is the ultimate human off-field. He's such a beautiful human being. And then he comes out on a footy field and makes you look stupid as an opposition. So I loved coaching him. He was so coachable. He did some stuff that you didn't even need to coach, where you just watch on in awe and enjoy the way he went about it. But the biggest memory for me is the person he was off-field. And so, the moment I saw that he was retiring, I had a feeling he'd do it against us in the last round. It seemed to be the trend of this season towards the end. I just gave him a short little message just to tell him that and thank him for the time I had with him.
Josh Worrell get the job on him when he's up full?
Yeah, we've talked through a number of different scenarios. It'd be a big job for Josh, really big job. And he's a young one coming through, and he's taking his game to another level. But that would be asking a fair bit of him. I won't give away the matchup and what it will be, but I'd say at some stage you might see Josh around him.
How big would it be for the team for the group to finish the season on the same amount of wins as Port Adelaide, a team that played two preliminary finals in the last 2 years?
Oh, well, look, we're aiming to get 4 in a row. That's our aim, and we're aiming to continue the momentum that we're building into next year. Unfortunately, we've known that it's been about momentum into next year for too long. But we're really pleased with the brand we're putting out there at the moment, and then the results are looking after themselves. So that's the focus for us. It's a challenge that we haven't been able to get done for a number of years. Might go right back to, I reckon, 2017. So 4 wins would be our goal for this weekend. Try and do both showdowns in 1 year.
Do you think you guys are better placed than Port heading into next year, and if so, why?
It's not a focus that we look at all. We don't compare ourselves to one side. We look at game trends. We look at where every side in the competition, what they're doing well, what they need to work on. We take anything we can from some of the best sides in the competition. We've done that with respect. We've looked at a lot of stuff Port have done over the last couple of years because they have been one of the best sides in the competition. So we continue to look at it that way. We don't look at an individual team and want to finish above them, or at the moment we want to finish above 8 teams. We didn't get that done this year. So we'll continue to work on that into next year.
So this past month, Nixie, is this the biggest indication for years that the rebuild is tracking in the right direction?
I think we're getting reward now for the work we've done throughout the year. We've played some good footy this year, competitive in majority of our games we've been in. For a side and the experience that we have, it's been a pleasing year in that respect. Some of the results we'd love to have gone our way and maybe be nudging and pressuring for finals this year, but it's not the case. The finish to the year has been really pleasing because it backs us in, gives our players some belief where it is we're heading. But we like to also nail in on some of the development you've seen across our group. It's team. We feel we're playing a really good brand of footy, but there are individuals as well within that are stepping up. I've mentioned it before. We've got a Sandford team that are playing for top spot this Saturday. So to have a squad that are playing that level of footy, we're confident that development is on track.
So does that mean some of those results go your other way? Is finals next year a realistic expectation?
Oh, look, like every side, the aim is to get there. We will do a fair bit of work over the pre-season and off-season on what it is we want to set as goals internally, but ultimately we're about trying to perform consistently. The style of footy we put out there this year, we just need to clean up a couple of little areas of our game that can get us across the line in a number of 4 or 5 more games of the year, and we're confident we can do that with another 22 games under our players' belt. We'll look at what we do in the break as far as acquisition, the draft, try and bring in some more talent there and help the group. But at the moment, look, we're really positive with where the group's heading.
What have you made of the coaching merry-go-round or situation going on across the board?
Oh, look, I feel for the coaches involved. Ultimately they're human beings. They're dads and their brothers and sons. And I find it amazing how we treat this like a circus. It's it's people's lives, and so we'll reach out and make contact and give support where we can. But it's turned into a bit of a circus, and I feel for those guys that are involved.
Is this the last game do you think we'll see of James Rowe in Crows colours?
Oh, look, there's nothing that's set in stone at this point. We'd love to have Jimmy Rowe at our footy club. He's a really important part. He's playing at the moment, playing a really important role for us. So that's something we'll look at over the break, and we'll do whatever we can. As I said before, it's the game. Every list changes. Every year there's a requirement. There's a draft that it's compulsory for us to use that draft. So we'll look at that coming into the end of the year. But we'd love to have Jimmy Rowe at this footy club.
What does the end of season conversation with Matt Crouch look like, do you think, Matt?
Well, nothing different to the conversation we've had now for a month or more, and ongoing throughout the year. Matty's putting his head down. He's going to work. He's actually playing some really good footy for that Sandford side. So he'll do that this week. He won't be eligible for SANFL finals. So like 20, I think it's 25 odd that won't be eligible. That we'll do some exit reviews just to go through how their season was, talk about the break and what it is they need to get right over that break, and then look forward to next pre-season.
He said yesterday in his interviews he'll go into that exit meeting next week still seeking a bit of clarity where if he's a chance at all next year, and he said that 1,000 times he wants to play AFL footy every week when we speak to him. Do you think that Matt Crouch is realistically around 1 2023 he could be in your AFL side?
Yeah, well, that's a conversation that we'll have with Matt come the end of the year. It's not one we're going to really talk through the detail of here.
Elliot, just a word on Elliot resigning.
Yeah, the Dragon, trying to get that one to stick. It's a really good signing for the footy club. Really glad that he's committed and wants to be part of the future. He's actually played a really important part. I was looking back last time we met in the Showdown, and it was probably one of his best games for the year. But Elliot continues to work on his game. He had an operation on his shoulder pre-season, this season just gone. So this off-season will be huge for him. Get in the gym, get to work, really sort of strengthen up his upper body. He plays a position where strength is needed. You get those key backs. He's got to be able to muscle them at times. And so we've had that conversation. As I said, he'll look to play through the finals for SANFL if he's eligible. And then hopefully finish strong in that area and then get to work in the gym over the break.
I've got to ask, where's the Dragon team from?
I don't know where it came from. I think it was more about trying to get rid of the old nickname, which was easy. It may have been the coach. I can't confirm that.
Matthew, just to tap into your experience, since you've lived both sides of the divide, do the clubs misunderstand each other?
No, I don't think there's a misunderstanding. I think it just comes with competitive sport. I think the war of words, can often get out of hand, and that's okay. We like to think we get it done on the ground, and when I talk about the white line, we encourage our guys to always think before they speak, and we'll go into this game with that mindset. We're coming to perform, but that's rivalries. There's just a line, I guess, and sometimes you cross it. Not the white line I'm talking about during the week. No, our guys understand, and as I've mentioned throughout this, there is a respect there, because we've done a lot of work studying. I won't use the name again; you'll get upset. But studying the mob across the road, and that's a sign of respect because the way they play their footy, and we'll continue to do that with the best sides in the competition. But then when we do get out on the oval, then we'll give it everything we've got to try and knock them off.